Emily woke up before sunrise, her mind already busy with the tasks ahead. The first soft light of morning slipped through her curtains and found her still lying in bed, heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Today was another day in the whirlwind of preparations for her sister's wedding, and Emily felt both pride and pressure. Chloe's big day was only 7 days away, and every moment counted. She slipped from the soft sheets and padded to the bathroom, the cool floor under her feet reminding her that comfort was a luxury she could not afford right now. Her reflection looked tired. Dark circles hugged her eyes. Work had been demanding, and Chloe's demands had been relentless. Somehow Emily had to find the energy to juggle both. She brushed her teeth slowly, taking deep breaths as she stared at the mirror. She tried to imagine the happy smiles that would soon fill the wedding photos, but her reflection looked too worn for that dream. In the small kitchen, the coffee maker gurgled, filling the air with a warm, rich scent that Emily welcomed. She poured a mug and cradled it in her hands as she scanned her to-do list. There were 8 errands. Pick up the final dress alterations for Chloe, confirm the cake delivery time, buy extra ribbon for the reception chairs, call the florist to double-check the rose count, drop off wedding favors at the venue, approve the seating chart, pick up her own dress, and finally, fetch Chloe's engagement photo frame for display. She tapped her pen against the paper, briefly closing her eyes. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a heavy coat she could not shed. At 6:30, Emily set out for the tailor's shop. The morning air was still cool, and she pulled her light jacket tighter around her. As she walked, she thought about how different she and Chloe were, even though they shared the same parents and childhood. Emily had always been the quiet, careful one. She planned every step and watched her words. Chloe, on the other hand, moved through life like a spark. She shone brightly but burned things in her path. She was bold, impulsive, and she loved showing off her new designer shoes or her perfectly matched handbag. Emily admired her sister's confidence but sometimes wished she could borrow a bit of that carefree spirit. At the tailor's, Chloe's wedding gown stood on a mannequin. The ivory fabric glowed in the soft shop lights, and delicate lace vines climbed the bodice. Emily checked the hem, then slipped her hand inside to feel the stitching. Her heart swelled with happiness. This gown was part of her sister's dream. She wanted Chloe to stand at the altar in pure joy, to feel beautiful and unstoppable. When the tailor assured her the adjustments were perfect, Emily thanked him and left with the dress carefully draped over her arm. The next stop was the bakery. Chloe had insisted on a 4-tiered cake with fresh flowers nestled between each layer. On her last visit, she had changed her mind 3 times about the flavor. Now she claimed she wanted 3 layers of vanilla sponge with raspberry filling and 1 layer of dark chocolate mousse. Emily could not keep up. She arrived just before 8 and found the baker already arranging ribbons around the boxes. He greeted her with a polite nod. "Everything looks delicious," she said, smiling and trying not to show her exhaustion. "It'll be ready at 2, he said. "I'll send you a picture when it's loaded on the delivery van." "Perfect, thank you." Emily forced her own smile and left. As she stepped back out into the morning light, she slumped onto the nearest bench. She checked her phone. 3 emails awaited her approval. 1 from her boss about the upcoming presentation, 1 from the florist confirming flower colors, and 1 from the venue manager asking about the seating chart. Even in this small lull, her mind raced. She sipped her now cold coffee and reviewed the seating plan. Tables named after travel destinations, each holding 10 guests. Uncle Carl needed a seat near the head table. Aunt Marisol had special dietary restrictions. She moved names around on the digital chart until it felt right. By 10 o'clock, Emily was on the road again, her calendar pinging with reminders. She reached Chloe's penthouse to deliver the spare ribbons and wedding favors. Chloe had demanded monogrammed ribbon in her wedding colors, deep purple and gold. When Emily arrived, a moving crew was loading furniture into trucks. Chloe's fiancé, Adam, hovered anxiously nearby. Emily handed him a box filled with small velvet bags, each containing a tiny glass bauble as a keepsake for the guests. "Thanks, Em," Adam said, his voice tight. He tried to smile but looked like he was about to burst. "No problem," Emily said, though her mind felt miles away. She noticed the penthouse in half-empty chaos. Walls once covered with framed photos now stood bare. Chloe's signature leopard print couch was gone. One by one, her sister was stripping away her life before starting a new one. Emily felt a twinge of sadness. Change could be good, but it also meant loss. "Are you okay?" Adam asked, noticing her distant look. Emily blinked and shook her head. "Just tired." He nodded. "I know, me too. Tomorrow's rehearsal is going to be hectic." She tapped her phone. "I'll send you the seating chart by lunchtime, and I'll confirm the flowers then too." Adam let out a breath. "Thank you." Emily left the penthouse and found a quiet spot in her car. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the engine's hum fill her ears. She thought of Chloe, as a child chasing her through the backyard, both of them laughing until their sides ached. Emily had always protected her little sister, even when Chloe's pranks went too far. She remembered bandaging Chloe's scraped knee after a bike crash and comforting her through stormy nights of teenage heartbreak. Now the roles had reversed. Chloe needed Emily's help more than ever, and Emily was determined to be there. She spent the next hour calling the florist. Chloe had changed the centerpiece flowers 3 times, first white lilies, then orchids, then garden roses. Emily gently guided the florist back to the original choice, soft pink roses with eucalyptus leaves. She knew Chloe's love of drama, but Emily also knew that simple beauty often felt more genuine. The florist agreed to the change and promised to send photographs of the arrangements as they were made. By early afternoon, Emily had collected the last of her errands. She drove to her own apartment, where her dress for the wedding awaited. It was a soft blue, knee-length with tiny pearls stitched along the neckline. It was simple, just like Emily preferred. She hung it carefully and stared at it. A wave of doubt washed over her. Part of her wondered if she had any place at this wedding. Her relationship with Jason had been rocky lately. Work was stressful. She felt hollow at the thought of walking down that aisle as part of Chloe's bridal party. Still, she knew she would make the effort. She carefully steamed the dress, filling the room with a gentle mist. As she worked, she thought of Chloe's excitement. The plans, the invitations, the registry, all of it had been so carefully curated by Chloe to reflect her taste for luxury. Emily admired Chloe's passion for beautiful things, but she also saw the cracks beneath the shine. She saw the loneliness in Chloe's eyes when she complained about wedding stress. She saw Chloe's need for approval in every detail. Emily wished her sister could see her own worth without chasing applause. With the dress hanging ready, Emily turned her attention back to work emails. She answered questions, approved drafts, and scheduled meetings. She thought about her upcoming presentation, which she knew had to be flawless. She wanted to prove to her boss that she could handle anything, even a family wedding that threatened to spiral out of control. Evening fell as Emily packed the wedding, favors and her own dress into garment bags. She called Adam one more time to confirm the seating chart delivery. He sounded relieved. "I don't know how you do it," he said. "Thank you for keeping everything together." Emily closed her eyes, smiling softly. That's what sisters are for. As she settled into bed that night, Emily felt every ache in her body. Her heart, however, felt lighter. Despite the chaos and the endless errands, she believed in the happy ending she was helping to create. She believed that Chloe would stand at the altar radiant and calm, that tears of joy would fall freely, and that everyone would celebrate the love that brought them all together. Sleep came reluctantly, but when it did, Emily dreamed of a perfect wedding day. She saw Chloe in her gown, her eyes shining with happiness. She saw Adam waiting at the altar, hands steady as he reached for his bride. She saw herself, standing beside her sister, confident and strong. And in that dream, Emily understood that no matter how demanding Chloe could be, no matter how heavy the tasks might weigh, family was the strongest bond of all, and she would do anything to protect it. ChatGPT said, Emily could not shake the feeling that something was off as she stepped into the lobby of Chloe's building. The polished marble floors gleamed under the warm lights, and the receptionist greeted her with a polite nod. Yet Emily's heart thumped loudly in her chest as though warning her that this errand would not be like the others. She clutched the small package of extra wedding favors to her chest, tiny silver tins tied with purple ribbon, and forced herself to walk toward the elevators. The elevator doors slid shut behind her with a quiet hum. As it ascended, Emily glanced at her reflection in the polished steel walls. Her face looked pale, and her lips were pressed into a thin line. She wondered why her stomach twisted into nervous knots. It was just a simple delivery, she told herself. Nothing more than dropping off some favors Chloe had requested at the last minute. When the doors opened onto the penthouse floor, Emily's footsteps echoed down the long hallway. The apartment. Doctor was slightly ajar. She paused, surprised. Chloe insisted on perfection in every detail. She would not leave the door open by accident. Emily knocked lightly, then pushed the door the rest of the way. "Chloe?" she called softly, stepping into the dimly lit entryway. The furniture had already been packed away, couches and chairs stacked neatly near the walls, boxes labeled and taped shut. Dust motes danced in thin shafts of sunlight that slipped through the tall windows. The place felt oddly empty, like a stage between scenes. "Over here," came a low murmur from the bedroom beyond. Emily's heart lurched. She recognized the voice but could not believe her ears. Jason, her Jason. She tightened her grip on the box and walked toward the sound, each step slower than the last. The bedroom door was closed. Emily knocked gently but firmly. After a moment, the door swung inward and she froze. Jason and Chloe were embraced, his arms wrapped solidly around Chloe's waist. Her arms had curled around his neck. They stood in the center of the room, a private world where even the thick oak door could not keep out prying eyes. For a heartbeat, they did not notice Emily. Then Chloe felt a shift in the air. She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes widening, as she realized someone was there. Jason pulled back too, his cheeks turning pale. Emily stared at them, the box of favors dangling from her fingers as though it weighed a ton. Chloe loosened her grip on Jason and straightened her posture, smoothing imaginary wrinkles from the front of her dress. Her hair, usually curled and glossy, lay tousled around her shoulders. Jason quickly wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, looking like a boy caught stealing cookies from the jar. They both wore expressions that betrayed guilt and confusion. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She felt as though the world had vanished around her, leaving her suspended in shock. For a moment she could not speak. Then the old Emily, the careful, proper one, rallied her courage. She lifted a hand and asked quietly, "Jason, what's going on?" Jason opened his mouth, then closed it, as though he were searching for words that refused to come. Chloe stepped forward, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears, a look Emily had never seen on her sister before. "Em," she began, her voice trembling. "It's not what it looks like." Emily's chest tightened. Pain and betrayal twisted together inside her. She looked from Chloe's face to Jason's, desperate for an explanation. Everything inside her begged to rush forward, to lash out, to demand the truth. But her voice came out soft, low. "Then please," she said, "help me understand." Jason swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing as he stared at the carpet. "Emily, Chloe and I, it was one mistake. We were both under so much stress and I don't know how it happened." Emily felt her knees weaken. Stress? A mistake? Her mind spun with questions. How long had this been going on? How many mistakes could there have been? She remembered the laughter of her boyfriend, the tenderness he poured into their Sunday brunch rituals, the embrace he offered after hard days at work. All of that now felt like a fragile lie. She forced herself to take a step back, setting the box on the floor so that she could stand with both hands free. "Jason," she said, her voice quivering, "you knew how important this wedding is. You knew Chloe has her fiancé waiting for her by the altar, And just a week before the ceremony, you let this happen? Chloe's bottom lip trembled. I was upset. I felt so scared that everything would fall apart. I saw how happy you were with Jason and I didn't think. She broke off, unable to finish the thought. Emily felt a tear leak down her cheek. Jason stepped forward, his face etched with regret. Emily, I'm sorry. You deserve better. I love you. But I made a terrible choice. It meant nothing. Please believe me. Emily looked at him, searching the sincerity in his eyes. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to think this was an isolated incident, a terrible lapse in judgment. But as she watched Chloe shrink back into herself and saw the guilt in Jason's posture, she realized the truth was too heavy to ignore. Something inside her broke. She straightened her shoulders as though bracing herself against the pain. I need some air, she said, turning away. Without waiting for a response, she walked past them through the living room and out onto the balcony. The city spread out below her, a glittering grid of lights and glass. She leaned against the railing, the cool metal soothing against her palms. She closed her eyes and let the night breeze wash over her, trying to steady her racing heart. Memories of happier times with Jason flooded her mind. The first time he took her hand in a crowded coffee shop, the way his eyes lit up when she told him about a new design idea at work, the lazy Sunday mornings they spent reading side by side. It seemed impossible that one person could carry such warmth and such betrayal in the same heart. Emily. Chloe's voice came soft behind her. Emily did not turn. She let the silence stretch between them. After several moments, Chloe continued. I'm sorry, she said, the single phrase feeling both too small and too large. I'm so sorry. Emily drew in a shaky breath. The city lights sparkled, and she felt as though she were looking at stars through the dark sky of her own life, beauty marred by distance and confusion. Why? She whispered. Why, Chloe? Chloe came up behind her and placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. Emily flinched but did not pull away. I felt invisible. You seemed so happy. You had Jason, your work, this calm confidence I never felt for myself. And I was terrified that I'd lose everything, my family's approval, Adam, even you. Chloe's voice cracked. I made a horrible mistake, I'm sorry. Emily's breath hitched. The pain in Chloe's voice reminded her of nights when Chloe, as a child, would cry in the dark, worried about storms or bad dreams. Emily had always been there, offering a nightlight, a story, a comforting hug. Now the roles had reversed. Yet this was not a child's fear. It was grown-up betrayal. I loved you, Emily said, her voice breaking. I thought I was helping you. I thought we were fighting the wedding stress together. But you were planning something. Like this behind my back? Chloe hesitated. It wasn't planned, she said. It just happened. And then I panicked. I didn't know how to undo it. She looked down, tears streaming freely now. I never meant to hurt you. Emily's world felt like it was collapsing. The balcony railing seemed too fragile beneath her fingertips, as though it could crumble at any moment. She closed her eyes, trying to think. Logic warred with pain. She knew she had to get away, to think clearly. But the thought of leaving Chloe alone in that empty penthouse, of going back to face Jason's regretful gaze, felt unbearable. I need to go, Emily said finally. She stepped back from the railing and turned toward the door. For a moment, Chloe reached out again, but Emily left without looking back. Inside, the penthouse felt colder than before. Chloe and Jason stood, together in the silent living room, watching Emily cross the threshold. Jason's eyes were red, and Chloe's face was pale. Neither spoke as Emily stepped into the elevator and watched the lights count down the floors. When the doors opened to the lobby again, the quiet felt heavier than before, as though the building itself mourned the loss of something precious. Outside, the night air was still warm, carrying faint sounds of traffic and distant laughter. Emily walked without direction, her mind spinning with questions. How could she face her family now? How would Chloe explain this to Adam? What would she say to her parents when they asked why she had disappeared? And, most painful of all, what would she say to Jason? She found herself at a small park, the benches empty and the grass cool under her feet. She sat down heavily, resting her head in her hands. Memories of Chloe's laughter, Chloe's tears, Chloe's smile, every image now felt tinged with betrayal. And yet, beneath it all, she felt a stubborn thread of love for her sister, woven through years of shared secrets and midnight talks. Emily stayed in the park until the streetlights dimmed and the city's pulse slowed. When she finally stood, her legs ached and her throat burned from unshed tears. She felt hollow, as though someone had carved out a piece of her heart and left a raw, aching void. She knew she could not stay out all night. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling, and typed a message to Adam. "I'm sorry. I can't be there right now. I need some time." She hesitated, then hit send. The reply came almost instantly. "Take all the time you need." Millie spent the next morning curled up on her couch, a warm blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a protective shield. The sun filtered through her window in golden beams, but its light felt harsh against her tender feelings. Her phone lay, silent beside her, but she knew messages would arrive soon. Texts from concerned friends, worried family members. She wasn't ready for that. She needed time to understand what had happened before she faced the questions. Slowly, she sat up and reached for her laptop. Her mind had shifted to detective mode. If Jason and Chloe claimed it was a one-time mistake, Emily wanted proof. She opened her email, scanning through the messages she had exchanged with Jason over the past few weeks. Everything looked ordinary. Sweet emojis after late-night work calls, plans for weekend coffee dates, reminders about paying rent. Nothing out of the ordinary. Yet she noticed something she had overlooked before. A notification about a read receipt that she did not remember opening. Curious, she clicked it and realized Jason had read one of her messages at an odd hour, 2 in the morning when he was supposed to be at work. Her heart pounded. She printed the receipt and set it on the coffee table, then opened Jason's chat thread in her messaging app. She scrolled back looking for any clue. Nothing jumped out. No flirtatious comments, no secret codes. Had Chloe disguised her messages? Emily squared her shoulders and decided the next step was to speak with Chloe directly. She closed her laptop and called her sister's number. Chloe answered on the second ring. "Em?" Her voice trembled. "Are you okay?" Emily swallowed. "I need to talk. Now." There was a pause. "Okay, I'm here." Emily took a deep breath. "Let's meet at the cafe on Maple Street in an hour. I have some questions." Chloe hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Emily ended the call, grabbed her coat, and headed out. The cold spring air felt crisp and her mind raced with possibilities. She parked near the cafe and walked in, choosing a corner table where she could see both the door and Chloe's entrance. She ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and sat with her notebook open, pen ready. Chloe arrived 10 minutes later, her usual poise replaced by nervous energy. She slid into the seat opposite Emily, her eyes pleading. "Em, I'm sorry. About last night." Emily nodded curtly. "That's what I want to talk about. Why did it happen? One mistake or many?" Her tone was gentle but firm. Chloe's eyes welled up, and she looked down at her own hands. "I don't know. It started with me feeling anxious about the wedding. I kept thinking, what if Adam changes his mind? What if I'm making a terrible choice? I saw how sure you were with Jason, and I thought maybe feeling that certainty would calm me." Emily leaned forward, pen poised. "So you reached out to Jason first?" Chloe bit her lip. "I sent him a message. I told him I needed someone to listen, someone I trusted. I didn't say it was you. I told him I felt weak and alone." Emily's pen scratched across the page. "What did he say?" Chloe closed her eyes. "He was kind. He listened. He said I was strong, that I deserved to be happy. We talked for hours one night. She shook her head. I didn't plan any kissing. It just happened when we met the next day. Emily closed her eyes. She remembered that day. She had been at work, deep into a project, when Jason told her he was meeting a friend to talk. He hadn't mentioned Chloe by name. He had said a friend. Emily had trusted him. Now that trust felt shattered. Why didn't you tell me? Emily asked softly. Why betray me like that? Chloe's tears rolled freely now. I was ashamed. I knew if I told you, you would hate me. I couldn't risk losing you. She reached out, but Emily pulled back. I already lost you, she whispered. And I almost lost Adam, and I lost Jason. Do you understand that? Chloe nodded, tears staining her cheeks. I know how bad it was. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Emily let out a shaky breath. Show me your messages with him. All of them. Chloe looked terrified, but she unlocked her phone and handed it over. Emily examined the thread. At first it was innocent. Chloe asking for advice about wedding seating. Chloe complaining about a wardrobe malfunction. Then the tone shifted. She saw Chloe writing, I feel trapped, and Jason replying, come see me. I'm here. Later, messages grew more personal. I need someone to hold me. I miss you. Emily's heart twisted. She scrolled until she found the exchange from the previous week. Can we meet? I need you. I'll be there. 1 hour. Emily's breath caught. She looked up at Chloe. How long has this been going on? Chloe swallowed hard. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Emily closed her eyes and shook her head. 3 weeks of lies, she said softly. Chloe reached across the table. Please, Em. I'm sorry. I stopped it. The day before yesterday, I told him it couldn't happen again. I begged him to swear nothing would ever happen again. Emily felt a flicker of anger. Did he swear? Chloe nodded. He did. But I never should have asked. I'm so sorry. Emily set down the phone and folded her arms. She stared at the table, at the swirling patterns on the wooden surface, trying to process the reality. 3 weeks of stolen moments, 3 weeks of private messages, 3 weeks that felt like a cruel play she was forced to watch. She took a deep breath. I need to think, she said. I'm going to meet Adam later today. I need to know if you plan to tell him, and I need to know the truth, every detail. Chloe's face paled. I don't know if I can. I'm terrified he'll leave me. Emily forced herself to remain calm. That's his choice. You hurt him too. You need to be honest. Chloe nodded, tears in her eyes. I will. I promise. Back at her apartment, Emily could not sit still. She paced from one end of the room to the other, her mind replaying the text thread, Jason's excuses, Chloe's remorse. She felt dizzy. She wanted to cry out, to throw something, to run away. But she did none of those things. Instead, she opened her journal and wrote down everything she felt. Betrayal, anger, confusion, sorrow, love. By the time she finished, her hand ached. The words on the page were messy, but they were honest. Later that afternoon, she met Adam at the small park near Chloe's penthouse. He looked strained, his suit jacket hanging loosely over his frame. Emily could see the lines of worry around his eyes. Em, he said, pulling her into a hug. His voice was low. Are you okay? Emily stepped back, looking him in the eyes. I have to tell you something about Chloe, she said. Adam's face tightened. Tell me. So she did. She told him about finding them kissing, about Chloe's hidden messages, about the length of their secret. Adam's face went from shock to hurt to anger in seconds. He ran a hand through his hair, then looked at Emily. I need to see her messages, he said quietly. Emily handed over her phone. Adam examined the thread in silence. When he looked up, his eyes were red. Why didn't she come to me? He asked. Emily shrugged helplessly. She was afraid. I tried to get her to tell you. but she said she couldn't. Adam put the phone in his pocket and stared at the ground. I love her, but I don't know if I can forgive this. Emily's throat tightened. I understand. Adam touched her arm gently. Thank you for telling me. I need some time to think. And I'm sorry you went through this. Emily nodded. Thank you for listening. They sat on the park bench, two broken hearts sharing a quiet space. The breeze rustled the leaves above them, and the city's distant hum felt like the world moving on, unaware of the pain unfolding here. Emily wondered how long it would be before this wound healed. Before Chloe and Adam found a way forward, before she could trust again. That evening, Emily returned home and found a voicemail from Jason. She hesitated before listening. His voice was soft, regretful. He apologized again and asked for a chance to explain. He said he loved her. She deleted the message without a second thought. Instead, she opened her laptop and bought a ticket to a yoga retreat for the weekend. She needed space, somewhere quiet where she could heal. She paid online, her fingers trembling over the keys. When the confirmation arrived, she exhaled, feeling a small sense of relief. At least she had a plan. Before bed, Emily called her best friend, Sarah. She told her everything in a rush of words, crying, pausing, crying again. Sarah listened, offering comfort. You deserve so much better, she said. I'll come with you to that retreat. Emily smiled through her tears. Thank you. As she lay in bed that night, Emily felt a flicker of hope. The pain was still raw, but she had begun to untangle the lies from the truth. Chloe would face Adam, Jason would face the consequences of his choice, and Emily would face herself. Her broken heart, her wounded trust, her fierce determination to heal. She closed her eyes, imagining the retreat's peaceful gardens, the soft sound of waves, the gentle guidance of a meditation instructor. She pictured herself breathing deeply, letting go of anger, finding forgiveness, and rebuilding her strength. And for the first time since the betrayal, she felt a calm settle in her chest. The path ahead would be hard, but she knew she would walk it. Step by step, moment by moment, she would reclaim her life, and in doing so, she would discover who she truly was beyond the shadows of hurt and betrayal. Emily stepped out of the car and took a deep breath. The crisp air filled her lungs with a calm she had not felt in weeks. Today was the wedding rehearsal, and Chloe had insisted on going ahead, despite everything. Emily's heart pounded as she climbed the stone steps leading to the garden chapel. She smoothed the front of her simple blue dress and walked inside, where rows of white chairs faced a small wooden altar. Pale pink roses and eucalyptus leaves decorated every surface. The setting was beautiful, almost unreal compared to the storm of emotion she carried. Adam stood at the front, his suit crisp and his expression tense. He saw Emily and gave her a small nod, as if to say he was glad she came. Chloe hovered near him, her hands twisting at the lace of her rehearsal gown. She looked nervous but determined, as though she would force a smile no matter what. Emily found her place beside the bridesmaids and took a seat, her eyes fixed on her sister. Memories of childhood days flooded back, playing dress-up and clown, wigs, whispering secrets late at night, sharing ice cream cones on hot summer afternoons. It felt impossible that those two little girls could grow into these shaken adults. The officiant, a kindly woman with silver hair, began speaking softly about love and commitment. Her words floated through the garden, gentle and soothing. But Emily could not focus. Her mind kept returning to the messages, the kiss, the betrayal. She had promised Adam she would let him handle things with Chloe, but she could not stay silent. She knew Adam was strong, but he needed help. She also knew Chloe needed to face the truth. And here, in front of their family and friends, was the moment to do it. When the officiant paused, Emily stood. Gasps rippled through the guests. Adam's eyes flicked to her face, confused. Chloe's cheeks went pale. Emily's voice trembled at first. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, her words clear despite the quake in her chest. "But there's something you all need to know." She held up her phone. Everyone leaned forward. She tapped the screen, displaying the message thread. These messages show Chloe and Jason meeting in secret. They spoke about feeling alone and then they kissed only a week ago. A silence fell, thick as fog. The gentle hum of cicadas seemed to pause. Chloe's lips trembled and Adam's jaw clenched. Guests murmured among themselves. Emily felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. I found them together, she continued. I saw them with my own eyes. I gave Jason the chance to explain, but his apology did not change what happened. And Chloe, you promised to stop, but the messages show it went on for weeks. Emily's voice grew stronger as she spoke. I'm doing this because I love you both. I want honesty. I want healing. And I refuse to be silent while lies stand in the way of love. Chloe covered her face with her hands and sank to the ground in a sob. Adam took a step toward her, but Emily held up a hand. Give her space, she said gently. Then she turned to Adam and dropped her phone into his outstretched hand. It's your turn now, she said. You deserve the truth. Adam's hands shook as he scrolled through the messages. His eyes filled with tears, and he looked up at Chloe. How could you? His voice was quiet, but intense. We were supposed to be partners. You lied to me. Chloe's sobs echoed in the quiet garden. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was scared. I thought if I told you, you would hate me. I didn't know what to do. Adam's face softened for a moment, but then his eyes hardened again. Scared of what? You had me. You had our family. You risked everything. He looked at Emily. Thank you for telling me. Then he knelt beside Chloe and wrapped his arms around her. Chloe clung to him, her body shaking. Emily watched, her heart ache and relief mingling in her chest. The secrets were out. The officiant stepped forward, her voice calm. I think we will pause here for today, she said. Guests stood and began to drift away, some offering quiet words of comfort, others staring in shock. Emily gathered her things and walked to where Adam and Chloe knelt. She knelt beside them, gently placing a hand on each of their shoulders. Chloe's tears soaked her dress. Adam's face was wet with uncertainty. Emily felt a fierce love for both of them. Love tangled with pain, hope tangled with fear. Chloe, Emily said softly, you need help to find your own strength. And Adam, you need time to understand what you can forgive. Chloe looked up, her eyes red and swollen. I want to make this right, she said, her voice small. I will go to therapy. I will do whatever it takes. Adam studied her face. I need to think, he said. Then he stood, helping Chloe to her feet. Emily rose too, brushing dirt from her knees. She looked at her sister's face and saw shame, but also a flicker of determination. That evening, the rehearsal dinner was quietly postponed. Family and friends gathered in small groups offering support. Emily slipped away and found a bench near the chapel. She rested her hands on her knees and breathed deeply. The sky glowed with pink and gold as the sun sank behind the hills. She felt both exhausted and strangely alive. The confrontation had been painful, but necessary. The truth felt like a wound, raw and open. But she knew wounds healed when cleaned and tended. Chloe joined her on the bench after a while. She sat silently, beside her sister, wrapping her arms around herself. Emily handed her a tissue and Chloe wiped her eyes. Thank you, Em, Chloe said quietly. For everything. Emily smiled sadly. I did the right thing, but it still hurts. Chloe nodded, staring at the flowers swaying in the breeze. They sat together, two sisters bound by love and broken trust. When Adam came to join them, he spoke first to Emily. I owe you an apology, he said. I doubted you. I should have believed you. Emily shook her head. We all make mistakes, she said. Right now, we need to focus on healing. He turned to Chloe. I want to try, he said, but I can't promise anything yet. Chloe nodded and looked at Emily. I understand, she whispered. Emily reached out and squeezed her hand. That night, Emily returned home and found her journal waiting on her desk. She opened it to a fresh page and wrote, "Today we spoke the truth. I felt the weight lift, but the path ahead is uncertain. I know healing will take time, for all of us. I am proud of Chloe for admitting her mistakes, proud of Adam for facing the truth, and proud of myself for standing up for what is right." She closed the journal and turned off the lamp. As she lay in bed, she felt a calm settle in her heart, like the end of a storm. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, therapy, sessions, difficult conversations, moments of doubt, but she also knew they would face them together, one step at a time. And that was enough. Emily awoke the next morning feeling the weight of the previous days still clinging to her like damp clothes. She sat at the edge of her bed, hands folded in her lap, and took a steadying breath. Outside her window, the sky was pale with the first light of dawn. Today marked the beginning of the real work, healing and rebuilding trust. She knew it would not be easy, but she felt a spark of hope deep in her chest. After a quick shower and a cup of tea, Emily opened her laptop and drafted a message to Chloe and Adam. She wrote, "Let's meet this afternoon at the cafe where we talked before. I'd like to plan our next steps." She hesitated only a moment before hitting send. It took courage to bring them back together. But Emily believed that honest communication was the only way forward. Midday found Emily walking to the quiet corner cafe on Maple Street. The familiar chime over the door sounded like an old friend. She found Chloe already seated, her shoulders squared as if braced for more difficult words. Adam joined a few minutes later, offering a tight nod in greeting. The three of them settled into a corner booth, each with a cup of coffee steaming in front of them. Emily took a deep breath. "I want us to talk about what comes next," she began. "Chloe, you said you'd go to therapy. Have you set up any appointments?" Chloe nodded, pulling out her phone. "Yes, I spoke with a counselor yesterday and booked an initial session for next Wednesday. I'm nervous but ready." Emily smiled, relief softening her features. "That's a great start." Adam crossed his arms but met Emily's gaze. "I've also thought about getting support," he admitted. "Maybe talking to someone about how to cope with betrayal, how to forgive, or not forgive." Emily reached out to touch his hand. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you. We all need different kinds of help." Chloe sipped her coffee, absently stirring the foam. "I want to make amends," she said quietly. "I know I broke Adam's trust and Emily's trust. I want to show through my actions that I'm serious." Emily nodded. "Actions speak louder than words. What would you like to do first?" Chloe thought for a moment. "I'd like to write letters to you both to explain how I feel and what I hope for our relationships. Then I want to volunteer somewhere, to give back in a way that proves my commitment to doing good." Adam considered this. "That sounds thoughtful," he said. "I think writing is a good way to sort out your feelings." Emily leaned back, folding her arms in a gesture of calm authority. "I also think we need some boundaries. Chloe, for a while, maybe we should limit communication to certain times or methods so everyone can feel safe, and Jason should be out of the picture until further notice." Chloe closed her eyes and nodded. "Yes, I will block his number." Adam added, "That feels right. I need time without him in the picture." Emily felt gratitude for their willingness to agree. They spent the next hour discussing practical steps. Emily suggested they create a shared calendar, therapy appointments, check-in calls, family dinners. Chloe offered to host a small lunch in her new, quieter apartment after her counseling began. Adam promised to attend. When they left the cafe, a plan was in place, a roadmap for healing that felt real and achievable. Over the next few days, Emily focused on her own needs too. She packed a bag and traveled to the yoga and mindfulness retreat she had booked. The retreat center sat on a peaceful stretch of coastline, where waves lapped against rocks and green hills rolled into the distance. Each morning, Emily practiced gentle stretches and breathing exercises. The calm voice of the instructor guided her to let go of fear and resentment, to find compassion for herself and others. In yoga class, she met other women who had experienced betrayal in different forms, friends who had lied, partners who had cheated, family members who had disappointed. They shared stories over herbal tea in the lounge, creating a sense of community that warmed Emily's heart. Each evening she walked along the beach, letting the cool water brush her toes, imagining it washing away her pain and doubts. By the end of the retreat, Emily felt stronger. She returned home with clearer eyes and a renewed sense of purpose. She unpacked her bag and found the letters Chloe had left on her couch. 2 envelopes were sitting neatly side by side. One was addressed to Emily, the other to Adam. Emily held her breath as she opened the one with her name. Inside was a handwritten note. Dear Emily, I am so sorry for betraying your trust. You have always been my protector, my role model, my best friend. I was jealous and scared, and I made choices that I regret deeply. I know words cannot undo the pain I caused, but I hope my actions can show you how much I love you and how hard I am working to be a better sister. Thank you for not giving up on me. Love, Chloe. Tears filled Emily's eyes, but she felt warmth bloom in her chest. She folded the letter and placed it in a folder marked Family Healing. Then she opened Chloe's letter to Adam later, reading the similar words of apology and hope. She texted Adam, I got them. I'm glad she wrote. Let me know when you're ready to read mine. His reply came quickly. Thank you for helping with this. I will read soon. The next Sunday, Emily, Chloe, and Adam gathered at Chloe's apartment for a simple lunch. Chloe had prepared a light meal, roasted vegetables, simple salads, fresh bread. They sat around the table and Emily began. I want to read something too, she said, handing each of them a letter she had written. Chloe and Adam exchanged glances before accepting the envelopes. Emily spoke softly as she read aloud. Dear Chloe and Adam, when I discovered your secret, my world turned upside down. I felt anger, heartbreak, and fear that our family would never recover. Yet I also felt love that made me stand up and speak the truth even when it was painful. I believe we can heal, step by step, if we commit to honesty, boundaries, and compassion. Thank you for being willing to walk this path with me. She folded the letter and looked at them. I love you both. Tears glistened in Chloe's eyes. Adam's expression was tender as he reached for Emily's hand. Thank you, he said. That means a lot. Chloe stood and crossed the room to embrace Emily. I love you, she whispered. They held each other for a moment, and Emily felt the tight knot of pain in her chest loosen. In the weeks that followed, therapy became a routine part of Chloe's life. Emily called her every Wednesday morning to check in. Adam joined a support group that met on Tuesdays. They all attended a family counseling session together on Saturdays. Slowly, the tension that once crackled between them began to ease. Laughter returned to their gatherings, small moments of joy shining through the mist of past hurt. One afternoon, while Emily visited Chloe's apartment to help hang a new painting, she paused by the window and looked out at the city below. Chloe had moved in a fresh potted plant and a bright rug that made the space feel warm. Emily realized that healing was not just about fixing what was broken. It was about creating something new, something more authentic. She turned to Chloe and smiled. This place feels like you are becoming you again. Chloe grinned and nodded. The date of Chloe's rescheduled wedding approached. Everyone felt a quiet excitement. Instead of the grand affair originally planned, Chloe chose a small ceremony in the same garden chapel where they had last spoken the truth. Only close family and friends were invited. Chloe and Adam wrote their own vows, promising honesty, patience, and unconditional support. Emily stood beside her sister as maid of honor, her heart full. On the day of the wedding, Emily watched Chloe walk down the aisle in a simple ivory gown that suited her newfound sense of self. Chloe's smile was genuine, free from the anxiety that had haunted her before. Adam's eyes shone as he met her at the altar. When they exchanged rings, Emily felt tears of joy gliding down her cheeks. The journey to this moment had been long and difficult, but it had also brought them closer, forging bonds stronger than before. After the ceremony, the small group gathered under twinkling lights in the garden. Chloe and Adam danced danced to a soft love song, and Emily joined them for the next song, surrounded by people who loved them. Laughter, music, and heartfelt toasts filled the air. As the night wound down and guests began to depart, Emily hugged Chloe and Adam tightly. Walking home later that evening, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. She reflected on the past weeks, the betrayal, the confrontation, the therapy, the small acts of forgiveness, and realized how far they had all come. No, things were not perfect. Trust would continue to be built day by day. But the foundation was laid: truth, compassion, and a willingness to heal together. Finally, back in her apartment, Emily sat at her desk and wrote one last entry in her journal for this chapter. We have faced darkness and found light. We have fallen and risen again. Love endures through honesty and grace. Today I am proud of us all. She closed the journal gently, a contented smile on her lips. The path ahead would hold challenges, but Emily knew that with open hearts and honest words they would face anything together. And that knowledge filled her with unshakable hope.